Hi, welcome back to Ahead of the Curve. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Teed. Today we're going to be talking about how to monitor scoliosis progression without x-rays. I never recommend somebody goes under repetitive x-rays because we all know radiation has some detrimental effects. And if at all possible, you want to try to avoid getting x-rays as much as possible. And there's several different ways that you can do that. The first way is to find a site that has something called a low dose radiation x-ray machine. It's also known as EOS. And they're not super duper common. They're more common in cities or places that have a scoliosis specialty spine center. That is a really good option to monitor if your curve is progressing or not. And there's also some new apps out there where it's like a AI type of assisted measurement where you use your camera phone and you have somebody walk around you, and it's basically like taking a 3D image of you, and it gives a guesstimate of what your curve type or curve size is. The accuracy of those is kind of up in the air right now, but they are refining that process as best as possible. Here are some ways that you can measure them in your own household, kind of monitor your progress or the progression of your curve. The first one is to measure your rotation using a scoliometer. And this is a scoliometer is a cheap instrument that you can buy on Amazon. And it kind of looks like a level, except it has like a curve in the middle of it for you to track your spine. You can't do this on your own, so you need a buddy or a partner to help you with it. And basically what you do, you as the patient, you stand with your feet touching each other, and then you roll forward and you do an Adams test. So that's the test that they do, that forward bend test to tell if you might have scoliosis or not. It's like a screen. So you really want to try to round your back as much as possible. And then your partner, your friend, spouse, they trace the tool down your back, and then they kind of go along the different curves of your spine. So as it raises up on one side, the little marble will drift in the water, and it'll show like a clinical measurement of the degree of your rotation. So you get a baseline with that, and then you check it again in 6 months and see if it has progressed. So that's one way to monitor your if your curve is progressing or not. That's also known as your angle of trunk rotation. That's essentially what you're measuring with that tool. So you do that one every 3 to 6 months, and a sign of progression is if your degree of rotation increases 3 degrees, it could indicate that there's a change in your curve. Another one is to track your height. So a progressing curve can affect your overall height due to that spinal compression or the side bend rotation that happens. In order to get accurate measurements, you want to make sure that you're measuring at the same time of day each day, preferably in the morning, because over the course of the day, all of us we lose some height due to dehydration of our discs, so that we're kind of naturally just getting shorter over the course of the day. You want to make sure that when you're getting that measurement done, that you're standing tall and you're not like trying to stretch or alter your posture at all. This is the same frequency of measurement. You want to do it every 3 to 6 months. And an indication that your curve is progressing is a showing a decrease in height or an unexpected slowing in your growth. So if you're using this with an adolescent, that would be an indication that maybe their curve is progressing. The third way is to monitor your posture and shoulder alignment. So just using kind of a visual gauge. You can take consistent photos that will help you visually assess over time. So that's a way that I use to track progress with my clients. It is a really good indication of if this person is improving their curve or not without having to get an x-ray. So you're just looking for the balance and symmetry of the shoulder height, of the hips being level with each other, the hips shifting off to one side. Ideally, we want all of the body blocks stacked on top of each other. So you have your pelvic body block, you have your rib body block, and your shoulder body block, and your head. And you want, basically, if you were to draw like a plumb line through the middle of your face, the line would go through the middle of the nose, the middle of your belly button, and then your pubic bone would all be in line with each other. You want to take these photos from the front, the side, and the back in a relaxed stance. And you would do this every 3 months. And the fourth way is to measure your rib to hip ratio. So this is called like the finger test. And you take your 4 fingers in standing and you try and see if you're able to fit all of those fingers in between your rib and your hip. It's likely that one side you have a little more space than the other, but ideally we want to easily be able to get your 4 fingers, not somebody else's. It has to be yours. It's all proportional to the person. If you notice like a decrease in that distance, if you are an older adult, this can indicate possibly like a spinal compression, even a small spinal fracture, it can indicate. And basically, you stand relaxed and upright with your arms at your sides. You can use a measuring tape if you want to be pretty precise, or you can just use your fingers. And again, this is measured every 3 to 6 months. And a sign of progression is a decreasing measurement. So you want, if anything, for that measurement to increase over time and not decrease, obviously. And then finally, tracking your breathing and your rib expansion. So as I've talked about a lot on this podcast, your scoliosis can affect your rib mobility and lung capacity over time. So we want to make sure that rib expansion, if anything, is increasing over time and not decreasing. The way that you do this, you use like a cloth measuring tape and you wrap it around the widest part of your rib cage, just below your pecs, just below your nipple line. You measure the circumference at a full inhale, and then you measure the circumference at a full exhale. And then you record the difference between the two. So you want to measure this one every 3 to 6 months. It's a good idea to take like 3 measurements at a time just to make sure you're getting it correctly, and you take the average of those 3. So obviously, sign of progression is reduced rib expansion or difficulty with that deep breath. And I do find it's interesting that the measurement at the lower ribs, the measurement around the belly. So this is like another way to assess lung capacity, is that measurement right at your belly button, which essentially is looking at your diaphragm expansion. And especially with teens who wear the high-waisted skinny jeans that are super tight and really like suck you in, or even in my generation, um, your mom telling you to always like suck your belly in. It definitely affects your breathing and your lung capacity and your diaphragm's ability to do its job. So I find that sometimes when I measure that, it's a zero. It's a zero with the inhale. It's not moving at all and changing at all with the inhale or the exhale. Um, and that is just like kind of a life thing, I think. I don't know that it's necessarily even a scoliosis thing. So just kind of some reminders that tracking consistency is key. So you want to stick to a schedule, maybe every 3 to 6 months, kind of write on your calendar that it's time to check again. Make sure you're checking in the morning each time. And if you notice significant changes, then that is an indication to go see a specialist, go get an x-ray at that time so that you're not, just going in all the time and getting x-rays with your doctor unnecessarily. And this is recommendations for everybody, but mostly for adults. Adolescents, you gotta just you should listen to your doctor's recommendations with the monitoring. And ideally, they're using that low dose radiation x ray machine to take your repeat x rays. That is all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I think I forgot to mention at the beginning of this episode that this was a special request from one of my clients in my small group coaching program. And I thought it was an excellent question. And I'm sure you were curious or didn't know you were curious before you heard this episode. Um, it really is helpful to leave a little rating, and maybe share this episode with somebody that you love that has scoliosis. Thank you for your time, and thanks for listening. Until next time, stay well and stay ahead of the curve.